obviously talking to investors, you're talking to projects and companies. Like, what is the general sort of sentiment you hear right now? How do people feel?
That's an important question. So there are a couple of things. I mean, for one, the vehicles that we're focusing on are kind of more globally oriented. So there's kind of a US question, and then there's rest of world, and then certainly kind of localized on a continent by continent, country by country basis even as well. So I mean, a couple of things right now, I'd say, especially after this past week or couple of weeks with kind of some of the motion around the SEC, Coinbase, Binance, all of that. I do think specifically the US, some investors are in a bit of a holding pattern, which is understandable. There's kind of a broader question though, in terms of there are folks for whom there will always be a reason, right? So some of the same folks now that are saying, we don't want to go in because we're afraid of potential action by the SEC, et cetera, are going to be the same folks that will say, once that stuff does, once the dust does settle, once the air is clear, could be saying, now there's no more upside to crypto. The price is kind of baked in. So it's like there are going to be arguments to not invest now. There are going to be arguments to not invest in the future. They're going to be, different ones. Other relevant components are also that kind of the hype cycle of news is a bit skewed, especially in this country. And for example, a lot of people will observe that about prosecution, criminal action in general. Let's say, a murder trial, for example, gets huge publicity in the headlines that someone got arrested for the murder, a lot less that they got acquitted, for example. And then there's kind of this kind of halo of guilt that kind of surrounds someone, even just by nature of having kind of gone through the legal process, even when they are acquitted and won. So in that sense, let's say the last lawsuit around for Coinbase, it was a huge thing. Coinbase is getting sued. Not a lot of people talked about the fact that they won, but at the end of it, it actually really didn't affect the price of Coinbase stock all that much. I think the digital assets have also been not as affected in terms of volume or in terms of price as one might expect from just the level of hype surrounding some of this stuff in the US. And that's partly because it is a global market and not everyone cares about what's going on in the US. But beyond that, there's also just the rest of the world, is kind of leaning a bit more towards, a more robust regulatory environment. That's ultimately, likely to be a net positive. So we've got Europe with some of the recent legislation discussions, MiCA, et cetera, in Europe. The kind of the pattern is to try and regulate, often to try and regulate exchanges, which are kind of a revolving door of money moving around, and it's understandable because it's a AML, anti-money laundering risk. Also, the other kind of pattern is to implement guardrails that can protect retail investors, which again is like in any other market essentially. So the kind of stuff that's happening with crypto now is kind of similar to some things that were happening with the stock market, let's say decades or even around a century ago, and that's kind of, natural cycle of things. So but beyond that, I'd say right now this particular kind of FUD cycle is pretty US concentrated and also pretty contained in terms of its effect on kind of just the global crypto market.